The quality of your life experience is determined by the quality of your emotions. You can love Jesus with all of your heart, yet if you feel depressed on a regular basis or anxious, those feelings will lead to a life that is less than favorable. So what's the secret? In this episode, I'm going to dive into the process that I teach at my seminars. My name is Skylar Lewis, and this is the Christian Business Mentor Podcast. Let's dive in. All right, so I'm going to do some actual illustrations here. So if you're watching the YouTube version, you can see it, but I'm going to kind of talk through it. Let's say you have a circumstance or some kind of life event that happens, right? And we're experiencing life on a daily basis. So there are life experiences, events, relationships, stuff that go wrong, that go well. So what typically happens is you have a life circumstance, and from that circumstance, you create a meaning. You create a meaning, just roll with me on this. You create a meaning, and that meaning creates an emotion. And that emotion then determines how you behave. So your behavior, which leads to your life experience and all of the results of your life. This is our life experience. This is what happens inside the average, the standard, all human beings, is we have a circumstance. Let's say we get into a car accident, or our wife cheats on us, or someone's out late and we don't know where they are. From that circumstance, we derive a meaning. Some meaning or some story is created. And from that story, it releases and inhibits an emotion. So there's some emotional response that happens based on that meaning, which leads into our behavior and then our life experiences. So just before I was 17, I was sitting in my house, I was on my couch, and my mom came over and said, "Skylar, I need to share something with you." And she had a serious look on her face. And as she was having a conversation with me, she told me that my sister was pregnant. And my sister was 15, 16 years old at that time. And so I remember this flood of emotions that came over. I ended up going into the shower later that night. I just ended up bawling my eyes out because this was my baby sister that was now pregnant by a guy that was a drug dealer in our city. So pretty much the worst thing that could happen in my eyes. And so the meaning that I created was this was the worst thing that could ever happen to my sister. I really believed that. And she ended up having a difficult time. She ended up getting hooked on drugs, and her kids got taken away. She had another kid a couple of years later. It was a mess. And so fast forward, Jacob, who was her son, is 18 years old. And he was living on our property a few months ago, moved to Indiana. But anyway, he is the biggest blessing in our lives. Just a tremendous child, a man that loves God, is a light in any room that he walks into. And so as I was thinking through this, I'm like, wow. So we are so grateful for Jacob. We would not want it any other way. And so the meaning that I created was this is the worst thing that could have ever happened. And the meaning I have now is this was one of the best things that could have ever happened. I wouldn't have wanted it any other way. We would not have Jacob. Which meaning is true? Was this the worst thing that could have ever happened, or was this the best thing that could have ever happened? So there is very rarely any inherently true meaning in the circumstances that happen. And I would say this is the circumstance/fact. What's the fact? So the fact was Adriana, right, my sister, had a baby. But the meaning, there's very rarely any inherently true meanings. The meaning that was created was the thing that I make up. And as human beings, we make these things up. So there is very rarely any inherently true meaning. So we derive the meaning from the circumstance. And so if you don't realize that your mind is doing this automatically, you're going to get stuck. Your mind is automatically applying meanings and stories to the things that happen throughout every day. If your wife is not giving you sex, or your husband's not doing something specific, you're going to have a meaning. Right? Why did she decline my offer for sex? Right? Why did she say no to sex? Is it because she doesn't love me? Is it because she doesn't care about me? She doesn't want to take care of my needs? Or is it because her body's not feeling well? Right? So what's the meaning that you create?
I hope you're enjoying this video. I'm the founder of Rise Up Kings, the largest faith-based personal development organization in the country. And it's our mission to reach as many people as possible to help them live lives of excellence, all to glorify God. We do this through our content that you're watching now. We do this through our seminars. So if you're enjoying this, please subscribe and share. Let's get back to the video.
And so there's something that we teach which is called the camera rule of thumb. If you can't take a picture of it, it's not true. So if you can't take a picture thinking, oh, this person's mad at me, if you can't take a picture of it, it's not true. Back away from the meaning, because we're creating meanings about that person's facial expression. We read into things many times too often or too deeply versus just being present with the facts. And so the fact when my sister had that baby, Jacob, the fact was she had a baby. The meaning I created determined my experience and how I saw her. And so we're creating meanings every day. And those meanings determine the emotion that we feel. Right? I felt bad and very bad for her for many years. Now I feel incredibly grateful, completely different meanings. So the meanings and then those emotions then determine our behaviors. I started to disconnect from Adriana because of those feelings. And those behaviors determine our life experiences. So you want to be present. What meanings are you creating? What overarching meanings have you created about the things that have happened in your lives? If you've gone through any trauma, what meaning did you create? I've talked about this before, but Romans 8:28, which is a powerful verse, right, states that all things work out for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose. All things that work out for the good of those that love God, who have been called according to his purpose. So the question then becomes, how do we know if we created a meaning that serves us? Does the meaning serve you or not? So how do you determine if you have a meaning that serves you? Well, it's the emotion that you feel. If you're feeling anxious, if you're feeling upset, if you're feeling angry, whatever emotion it may be, you can check in and say, hey, what meaning, what story did I create about my husband, my wife, my children, the issue with the school, the issue with the economy, what's going on politically? Like, what meaning are you creating? And is it giving you the emotion that will serve you? That's how you can check in to see, is the meaning or the story, is it serving you or is it not serving you? And so on a regular basis, right, daily I'm checking in, hey, what meaning did I create? Hey, that issue with that team member, what meaning am I creating about that issue? So this is an important part of realizing as a high-performing individual, you want to check in on the meanings. And a way you can check in on the meanings or the stories we create is that true? Is Adriana having a child, is that the worst thing that could have ever happened? Is that true? And you usually have to ask it twice. So I ask, is that true when I'm journaling? I actually journal through this process. Well, I start out with my emotion, right? What am I feeling? I'm feeling anxious. Well, why am I feeling anxious or insecure, right? Well, it's because I messed up on my podcast, right? Or I missed my words when I was speaking. Okay, well, what's the meaning I created? The meaning I created was that I'm not a good communicator. Well, what feeling did I have? Well, I feel insecure, I feel upset, I feel incapable. Well, then, is that true? Is the meaning you created true? What, that I'm not a good communicator? Sure. Can I know for 100% of a fact that that meaning is true? And that answer to that question will almost always be no. You cannot know for sure that that meaning is true. You can know that the fact is true. The fact was I missed a couple words, but the meaning I created was that I'm not an effective communicator. And so I can't know for a fact because maybe there's times where I am an effective communicator. And so checking in with the meaning and being able to drill down and question it allows for the possibility of something else. And part of my journaling process that I go through is once I say no, I can't know for a fact, then I go, well, what would be a better meaning? What would be a better meaning that would actually serve me and the person I'm in a relationship with, whether that be myself or whether that be my wife or my kids or a team member? What would be a better meaning that would serve me that even could be more true? Well, a better meaning could be that sometimes I mess up on my communication, but I'm on a journey of building mastery. Cool, a journey of mastery. That's a completely different emotion than I'm not capable, right? That I'm not a good communicator. So the meanings you determine, you can reframe those meanings. You can reframe the way you think about these things. And I wouldn't say you could, you must reframe. And which one's more true? I'm not an effective communicator, or I'm just on a journey of mastery, which requires failing at times. Which one's more true, right? Well, I'm going to stick with the one that serves me, the one that I'm on a journey of mastery, right? I'm going to jack up, I'm going to mess things up, but I'm on a journey of mastering these things. And so this is not pie in the sky, right? Head in the clouds kind of conversation around over positivity. This is really thinking through what life meanings are you creating, right, in your marriage, and are they serving you or are they causing damage to the people that you care about most? And so this is it's an important part of living a life where you enjoy your life. You have a life of meaning, of purpose, of incredible relationships versus a life of isolation. We have a tool, it's called the Reframe. There's a great book on reframing. There's some resources out there, but if you ever want to know more information, feel free to reach out, leave a comment, subscribe. We're going to be talking about this stuff more. This is one of the conversations we have at our events, and we actually dig deep into some of the specific life experiences that you've had, some of the circumstances or the situations that you've had in your life, and help reframe those to create something that serves you for the rest of your life. And again, you don't need an event to go do this. You can just go sit down and think through, hey, what life events have I gone through, and what meanings, what stories did I create about those? This is in alignment with our mission, which is to help more men and women live lives that glorify God by the way that they live and the way that they love and the way that they build their businesses. Let's go build businesses that glorify God.